Hello and welcome to Vibratrek. My name is Sarah. Welcome. You are most welcome on this creative journey here in the Northwoods of Maine. On this episode, I'm looking forward to catching you up on some cyanotype pursuits, as well as some new paints that have come my way, and sharing with you a new book that has made it on to my library shelf. There will also be knitting, and I have some travel plans to share. A deep, heartfelt thank you to those that contribute financially through Patreon or through Ko-fi. It is most appreciated, encouraging, and humbling. I'm so glad that you're all here. Let's catch up.
Appalachian sunrise meets my skin. Even with my eyes still closed, I can feel it coming in. Golden, golden, I'll follow only golden, 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 golden things. Mountain laurel high fives for miles in spring. Rainbow trout and a hummingbird wing. Golden, I'll follow only golden, golden, golden things. Gold hair, gold rings, gold leaves, gold anything, golden, I'll follow only golden, golden, golden things.
I'm really excited to utilize these sunnier, cooler autumnal days in Maine to do some cyanotype printmaking. It does require the sun. These are sun prints. You use a chemical mixture and you lay it out on your material, and you can then mask different elements down, and that leaves a print, as you saw. And it's a really, again, I know I've talked about this, great way to create some art pieces of natural things when you're not drawing it. Still, I ordered a drawing book, and I have some tutorials I want to follow to practice my sketching and drawing and kind of actualized renditions of nature or natural objects like ferns and feathers and animals. But I do enjoy printmaking, cyanotype being one of them, because I can capture those elements and with minimal spatial effort, kinesthetic or visuospatial effort, let's put it that way. So on this particular session, I was working with fabric, paper, and, as you saw, birch bark. I have different projects for each of those, and I like that cyanotypes, you can use a variety of mediums. The dye is permanent: leather, stone, ceramics, obviously fabric, and it has a lot of different applications. So for me, the fabrics that I've been putting together, I've used for journal making, and that I'm going to feature on the Patreon bonus content this month on how I take fabric, whether that's cyanotyped or botanical printed, and I can turn it into a traveler's notebook cover. So we're going to do that. And I've enjoyed doing that as gifts, and I do a lot of journaling, as you know, and so that is a great way to kind of keep those prints out in the open and enjoying them. The other thing you saw me doing was working with birch bark. Now, in the past, I have used birch bark in jewelry. I've made some pendants and some earrings, and I am now using it to make small prints for cards. The idea behind some of this is, and I know many of you in the past have talked about how you'd be interested in being able to access these and purchase some of the works that I do. And it's been really hard to figure out how to do that. And so I've been chatting a little bit about distribution opportunities. Opening my own store seems like a lot with the monthly fees for carrying, having a server, and the extra effort of negotiating sales tax and shipping and all of the kind of administrative piece that goes with that. And I have a lot of pieces that I work on and I love and I give a lot away, but I do like to make it, and I like to make and move things out. There's only so much I can use. I know that Ivana of Republic of Me is kind of in a similar situation, and she is making stitch markers, which she so generously gifted me to take a look at and use. And she's also selling some of her handmade items and her hand spun. And so I've been kind of attending to how she's navigating this, and so that's been very helpful to kind of lean into some of her insight on what could be done. All that to say, I've really started to enjoy making cards and those mini canvases. I can, have my style there, and if it appeals to somebody else's style, then it's pretty accessible price point for them, and it's small, etc. So the birch bark, as much as I loved it for the jewelry, I was always concerned about preserving the photograph on that medium. Birch bark is impervious to moisture, and while it does print and stain on the birch bark beautifully, once I start to add mediums like glue, etc., sometimes that gets compromised. Sometimes the image gets compromised. And so I was chatting with a local gallery owner, and we were talking about prints. Cards came up, and so a number of those birch bark pieces are destined for card making, as well as the paper pieces. So I really, I love having big multiple sessions, and I've also found, I have tons of printed paper, botanically printed paper, and I would love to find a way to compile that into packs for other junk journalers or collage artists, and just disperse it for people to rip up, use, etc. So that's kind of floating around. I'm trying to pull that together. It's a whole separate set of skills than what I have. And so we'll see how this unfolds and what avenues I'm able to tap into for, the cards and the paper. But I really love printing and just putting stuff together. I was also using the marbled papers to line the envelopes. I think that's very special. So the card making and my conversation with this particular gallery owner, looking at what I have for cyanotypes and what I enjoy, has kind of come together around that project. It's not something that takes me a huge amount of setup, and I can walk away coming back and forth to it, and it's also not a huge collage piece. I really enjoy working with encaustic mediums, but that setup can be overwhelming, and I am researching a fume extractor to work with the resin and wax, which is a beeswax and demerara. No, that's sugar. It's a type of resin that name eludes me. So anyway, those are all thoughts that cyanotype brings up for me. Now, when I first kind of got into cyanotyping, I was watching a gentleman on YouTube from the UK who was really focused on wet cyanotypes. And that's kind of what I do. I don't allow the cyanotype chemical to dry. I put it on, and then I put on my material, plant materials, masks, whatever. You saw me using some cardboard masks. You can use, objects, etc. And I just put it right on, and I was adding turmeric. You can add soap bubbles. I've done that just to create more texture and different colors. The turmeric will often come off gold and golden orange, coppery tone splotches, and I find the wet cyanotype again creates a little bit more texture, especially to the fabric. You get some of the wrinkles, etc. So you saw me doing that. I like to put the glass down. I like that to be clipped and sealed. I don't just put stuff on and put it out in the sun, because the plant material could curl up, and I think you get a clearer, crisper print when there's pressure on the materials. Now, obviously, if it's a pair of scissors and whatever other object you might put on, you can't put glass on that. They have more weight. They're going to hold themselves down onto the fabric. But lighter weight masks like the cardboard or the plants, I do think it's beneficial to clip it hard to the backboard. For my supplies, I think I just went to Michael's and I purchased some frameless glass mats, and then I just used the glass and a piece of plywood behind it for the rigidity to keep everybody nice and happy and tight together. So some of this was found in the sheds here, and some I purchased so I could do bigger pieces for the other projects that I have for journaling, etc. So the other thing that I do is when I develop my cyanotypes, I add hydrogen peroxide to my development tub, which is just water and some hydrogen peroxide, and that brings the blue about instantly. Sometimes you might take your cyanotype out and let it dry, and as it gets more oxygen, similar to indigo dyeing, you get more bluer tones and it becomes deeper and richer. But I kind of like to see what I got, and so I add hydrogen peroxide. You can tone cyanotypes with white vinegar, hydrogen peroxide, tea, black tea. So there's lots of different ways to play around with the colors and shifts and deepening them, etc. So for me, I use the hydrogen peroxide. I have used vinegar in the past to try to amp up some of the blue highlights. I've used vinegar on the wet cyanotype before I've put my materials down, which is another way to kind of play around with the chemistry. And I usually let them dry out of the sun, especially my birch bark ones. And then they're ready to go. I have seen people treat their photographs or their cyanotypes with beeswax or a Renaissance wax, which is like a microcrystalline wax, to just kind of, you can create different finishes. You can burnish them. But I don't really do that right now, just because none of the projects I have really require me to, and I'm not selling them as prints themselves. So there's kind of that whole process of how I have taught myself to do it. And I was very much inspired by Sherry Rapogle, her channel on YouTube, which I don't think she uploads as much anymore, but she was doing a lot of work with cyanotypes and encaustic, which I have done as well. They're really great to use behind encaustic wax. It gives it this kind of ethereal feel, and the encaustic doesn't react with the cyanotype chemical residue like it does. I think I talked about this with acrylic. So it's a really, again, easy way to get a nice, beautiful print. You can use the encaustic wax to finish it. So Sherry Rapogle really got me started on that, and then I kind of just experimented from there. But I was super happy to find recently a new book, and I want to share that with you. I picked it up, and it's, I think, Beginner Cyanotypes, but I'm going to feature it here for you to take a look at if this is something you're interested in doing. I would say the setup is pretty minimum. I was able to order for the chemical mixtures. There's a part A and a part B for about $14 from Jacker Dyes. You can use, like I said, a variety of different mediums. Your paper probably should be heavier because you do a lot of rinsing and there's a lot of moisture. And the glass, and that's really it. So it's great to work on with kids once that chemical is down. And I do use gloves when I'm working with lots of it. If I just need to put my hand in and rinse it, it's not so much. It is could be irritating to the skin, but it's not necessarily poisonous. But safety precautions around lots of exposure, I think, are smart risk assessment. So again, pretty minimal input, maximal output, and pretty minimum management, risk management, as far as some of the things I've done goes. But anyway, I want to introduce you to this book in case you're in a place where you are still able to utilize the sun and plants around or things that you've got going on. It's a really great way to kind of do some documentation around your own place, and then work with that further on in your journaling or other print making activities. So let's take a look at this book. I was thrilled to find Beginner's Guide to Cyanotype, Beautiful Projects to Print with Light by Kim Tyler, published by Search Press, because I had been looking for an entry-level basic technique book for a while. And so you're going to get all of those components that you would in any instructional kind of book. You're going to get the materials that you need and the process. What I like about this is that she covers a variety of different mediums and then the application in projects. So there's paper, there's cloth, there's ceramics, and there's a lot of neat different types of projects that perhaps you wouldn't normally think about, such as the nightlight. And I also really enjoyed the idea of doing the hagstones on the air dry clay. So I would highly recommend this book. It comes with the templates that you need to recreate the items. So it's really thorough, and it also includes a really nice troubleshooting table, which I found really helpful as kind of a self-taught newbie. I hope that you get a chance to explore this as well and maybe find some space on your library shelf.
I made an old man. I said, tell me your story. He took out an old pen and wrote something for me. He kept walking on down the road, and I watched him disappear like smoke. And I thought I'd just seen a ghost. Then I looked down at what he wrote. It said, son, when you grow up you'll be fine. I know you've got questions on your mind. Life is gonna happen one way or the other, whether you like it or not. Stop looking for the answers and you'll find what you've got.
Playing around with the cyanotypes and the card making made me also want to delve a little bit back into my paints. Last year I discovered the Schmenke or Schmenka super granulating colors. And I really, really love them. I think, in fact, they're my favorite watercolor paints. And I was practicing with color sampling through the inspiration of Behind the Studio Door, and I believe her name is Natasha. And she talked a lot, or exemplified how she likes to sample her paints, just creating little beach stones. And then when she's finished, you can decorate them using a white Pigma pen, and or you can use white gouache or whatever color gouache or color pen you'd like that, you know, provides the contrast that you want. So I thought it would be fun to fool around creating some cards with those beach stones and that particular paint. Similar to the Cyanotype, I can walk in, pick 3 paints, paint my little stones, let them dry, do the decoration. I like that it's quick and I get a little color fix, and I love the moody kind of textured look of those super granulating paints. Now last year I picked up, I don't know, maybe 10 or so. They come in a variety of what's the word I'm looking for? Presentations. You can buy 5 milliliter tubes, 15 milliliter tubes, half pans, and I love that these are offered in 5 milliliters. They're about $7, $7.50 in there for the 5 milliliters, so you can get a little sample and see what you like. These last me a long time for those beach stones. I purchased these through Jackson's Art, and that's one of the only places I've been able to find them in the 5 milliliter. I've really enjoyed the Tundra line, the Shire line, the Forest line, and the Haze line. And recently I realized they came out with a Galaxy line and a Deep Sea. And each of those is descriptors of a color. So there's like Galaxy Pink or Deep Sea Green, Haze Blue. And they all have nuances to them. And again, I have just really enjoyed sampling all of these and then playing around with designing with them. And so I've added that to my kind of card repertoire. They don't necessarily have anything to do with like wool and fiber or mane in particular, but I just find them to be a super palette cleanser, and also a really meditative experience. I can walk in at, you know, with my cup of coffee when I get up. I can paint 3 stones and then I can start the day. So walking in and walking out, it's not a big settling in and I gotta get all this stuff out like some other pieces that I do. And I'm just glad I kind of found a little outlet for that. And can enjoy those paints, because I've had them and I've been, like I said, doing the stones, but I kind of fell away from that, and I just like to have them kind of back hanging around and being utilized. So so the stones, as I said, you could find a little bit more about that through Behind the Studio Door and what she does. And again, like, they don't require a huge amount of skill, and people will recognize it. It's interpretive, and I think that it creates a kind of cohesive, simple, elegant composition. And I'm going to start to work on feathers next. I've been watching tutorials on painting feathers, so we'll see how that comes along. But overall, as you could see, the card making with the cyanotypes and the card as a canvas for these paints and for that item, that's not the word I'm looking for. There is a word for that composition, for that, I don't know the word, came and went. It's just, it's small enough to not feel overwhelming, and I think they, you know, they're pretty enough that if you receive that as a card, you might want to just put it in a frame. So the paper I'm using is from a company called Wanderings. It's 100% cotton rag, and it's handmade paper. And then I just purchased separately the craft craft envelopes, which I think I mentioned that I was lining in some instances. So if you're a watercolor person and you want to try these super granulating Schmenka watercolors, I would recommend Jackson's Art Supply. They have really nice samples. You can see how it granulates on paper, and I highly recommend. Really fun to use. I think they do some of that textural work in watercolor for you when you're not so precise or good at that skill. So they work hard for me, and allow my work to look a little bit more polished, I guess. So super fun in the card making department, printing and cyanotype. So I'm hoping to get a few more weekends here to get more prints done and start to try to do a little bit more practice every weekend or weekend day that I'm home on doing those stones, because I've just really enjoyed it. Welcome to the knitting and fiber portion of the episode. Before I talk about what I've been working on, I just want to extend my deep, heartfelt thanks to those that contribute financially through Patreon, the subscription platform, or if you've donated through Ko-fi. Thank you so much for seeing value here and providing support for the production, documentation materials that go into this experience. If you're in a position to subscribe, that's a wonderful way to help create traction around this content and move it forward, especially on YouTube. And if you are leaving comments, I am so grateful for your insight. And it's so nice to know that this is a two-way street of creativity and inspiration. So that is a really important component to me, as sometimes this type of documentation feels like very egocentric, but you're out there letting me know that you're finding interesting topics here and ways to enhance and enrich your own creative journey. So I am really grateful for all of that. Thank you. Thank you so much. I am looking forward to sharing with you a little bit of detail about some of my upcoming plans. Before I do that, the only thing I've really been working on is the There and Back Again cardigan. I put another repeat on the Aloft shawl by Becca Knits, but it doesn't look that much different. But the There and Back Again cardigan, I have finished one sleeve and I am working on the collar. And I have decided to do the button bands and the collar before I do the next sleeve, because the sleeve is when you're done, and I didn't want to have both sleeves done and then kind of get hampered down with the picking up of stitches. So I have finished one sleeve and I am working on the collar. All of the finishing I'm doing in a seed stitch, and I'm not changing the needle size per recommended in the pattern. In fact, I did a lot that wasn't recommended in the pattern, and part of that was I was working on the body while at a opening school kind of meeting, and I didn't have a reference for what I should do, and I was like, I think this is long enough, I should probably wrap it up. So I did. The original is supposed to have a split hem. I didn't do that, and the original is also supposed to carry the twisted stitch detail, which begins at the top and follows the button bands all the way down to the edge of the sweater. I didn't do that. I literally stopped all of the kind of slip stitch detailing, and I just did a big, huge seed stitch hem. So part of that was laziness, and part of that was I really like seed stitch hems, thick seed stitch hems, and so I'm not overly sad about it, and obviously I didn't rip it out in order to do it. So so that will look different than what the original is. As well, on the sleeves, I looked at what I should be picked up, and then I kind of decreased as I thought I should. And then I finished the sleeves as well in a thin seed stitch band. Didn't go down a needle size per the recommendation. So just some things to keep in mind if you're thinking about this pattern. Mine doesn't really look like the original on all the detail work. So the piece fleece that I'm using for this is just blowing my mind. I think that's part of the reason I just can't put it down. I just am so enjoying this yarn, and I'm already planning another sweater. I have wanted to use the color Kalinka Malinka, or is it Malinka Kalinka, for a very long time for the Frances Revisited sweater, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. It's very popular. I'm going to use the word old, but it's vintage in the knitting world. And so, yeah, I've been thinking about that sweater and wanting to do that next. So piece fleece on the brain, and in my heart, I'm just loving everything about this yarn. I just sit down and that's what I want to knit on. So yeah, so hopefully that'll be done maybe by the next time we chat here about the knitting. Let's see, what other news? Oh, I am planning to attend the Vermont Sheep and Wool Festival, which I believe is the first weekend in October. And as part of that trip, I'm going to be visiting the Woolly Thistle, taking the camera along to do that. And I'm going to be attending Millapalooza, which is sponsored by Junction Fiber Mill, which is the Friday night before Vermont Sheep and Wool starts. I think it's Friday the 4th. This includes a tour of their mill, and it also includes an evening of entertainment and food and kind of ambiance at Savage Heart Farm in outside of maybe White River Junction, Vermont. So I've purchased a ticket to do that so I can accompany my friend Corinne of the Woolly Thistle, and I'm going to be chatting with her and looking forward to shopping at the brick and mortar. So I kind of have that coming up, and I'm excited about having some travel content to pull in here and get excited about yarn. I've been really just feeling the knitting vibes. I want to knit all the things. I think I said last time, I just really enamored with the stash that I have around, and yeah, I want to get a hat on the go. I want to get some mittens on the go. So the piece fleece has been just, I don't know, it's just invigorated something in me. I'm just feeling like I'm all about wool, and that feels comforting and lovely. Part of that could be that we're moving into fall, but I don't know, that kind of passion for place and all of those pieces kind of being kindled, if you will. I think that's it. I was going to go somewhere else, but I can't remember where I was going to go. Oh, perhaps you're wondering about my hat. This is the Shetland Wool Week. I can't remember the name of it. Maybe from 2 years ago, but this was a kit that Fula Wool put together, which I purchased from their website, in all of the natural colors of Shetland, and it is one of my absolute favorite hats. And I absolutely, positively love Fula wool. I have a sweater in it, this hat, I have some leftovers that I cherish, and I want to do another sweater in their Shetland. I believe that their DK weight is a 3-ply, which makes it really lovely and round and rugged, even more so than the 2-ply jumper weight from Jamieson's and Smith. And so I've just really enjoyed that particular farm and their product. So Fula wool. And like I said, I can't remember the name of this cap. Sorry about that, but I will list it below. I think on that note, I am going to bid you a fond farewell. If you're interested in the Patreon subscription, I do upload bonus content there every month, and it is on a per episode basis. The suggested support is $3 an episode. I never publish more than 2 episodes per month, so just about $6 a month for 3 episodes with me and what I'm up to here, and that ranges from other creative pursuits to travel and interests of things I've purchased, books, etc. So if you have the means and you want to go check that out, you can find it below. If you want to shop with the Woolly Thistle through my affiliate link, you can find it below as well. Or you can donate through Ko-fi, or you can just give me a thumbs up and subscribe. That goes a long way. I'm so glad that you spent some time with me today. I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Many fond wishes. Bye.